Hello everybody and welcome to XeroPhobia. Tonight I would like to talk about the unconventional horrors, the secret spookies, my top 10 scariest moments in non-horror related video games. The rules for this list are very simple. I'm not gonna include multiple games in a series, so there won't be a number 9 as this game, number 8 is the same game in the same series, and all of these games are not considered horror games, or at least by my standpoint, they're not considered horror games. So let's go ahead and kick off the fun with games like... So I know that Bloodborne is technically considered a horror game. That's what From Software wanted to be, a dark fantasy foray into horror, and I know that it can be construed as such with all the copious amounts of blood and gore and all the man beasts and the moon phases and the screaming babies and what have you, but I don't technically consider it a horror game in the vein of, say, Outlast or Silent Hill or even the first few Resident Evil games. And this isn't horror as in blood-curdling, nightmare-inducing monsters, ghosts, demons, ghouls, what have you. This is more of a pure and visceral horror. This is a horror that you're standing somewhere facing unfathomable odds, and just the fear of I might not get through this just seeps itself into your heart and your soul, and it makes you quiver like a child. And of course I'm talking about the boss fight with, and I'm sorry I'm gonna mispronounce the name, I always do, but the boss fight with Father Gasenage. The main difference between the Dark Souls games and Bloodborne is the absence of fog walls. In Demon Souls, in Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 2, you explored an area, you ran up on a fog wall, and the fog wall was either an item or a boss fight, but you knew that it had to at least be one of those. You never once ran unsuspecting into a boss. Bloodborne is not like that. The very first boss fight, you fight your way to the area, you go to the bridge, and then you fight the monster, just right there. You get your insight, you can either leave, come back and summon someone to help you if you're smart, or if you're like me and want a pure playthrough, you stick it out, fight the boss, lose a million times, and finally win. Gasenage was different, because Gasenage, you fight that boss, go back to the Hunter's Dream, do all of your stuff there, go back to the bridge, continue to explore a little bit, get yourself there, and then you run across a cutscene of a man chopping up a beast, which is your job as a hunter to fight these beasts and quell this disease. However, the man turns at you, laughs his little laugh, and a boss fight ensues. And from here, it's a pretty standard boss fight, albeit a lot quicker, because that was one of the differences between Dark Souls and Bloodborne as far as combat, was the combat is a lot quicker in Bloodborne, until you get him down to about half health, in which he himself transforms into a beast. And once that happened the first time for me, because I remember getting him down to that point and that happens, it's a whole different battle. It's a whole new fight with this beast. He lunges at you, he jumps up in the air, you don't know where he's gonna land, he lands on you, knocks down so much health, and essentially it boils down to you're fighting a beast man in a foggy cemetery at night in this rundown Victorian village. And again, just the uncertainty of I might not be able to finish this boss off to go to the next area was enough to make my controller sweaty. And when I beat him, I recall, and if you've watched on the Zero Raider Gaming channel, physically exhausted finishing that fight. It was just an all-out battle royale with this just beast monster, and it's terrifying the first time you come across it. And to this day, when I play Bloodborne, I hate that boss fight. I hate that boss fight so much. The only thing spookier than all of that would possibly be and this will be in the same vein as the Bloodborne boss fight that I mentioned before. However, Dark Souls 1 was the very first game that got me into this glorious franchise of just super hard, super dark, super challenging games. And the reason that I chose the Capra Demon as opposed to the first real boss fight in the game was the simple fact that, again, I had no idea what I was getting into. I started the game, beat the Asylum Demon, went through the Undead Burg, beat the first boss, and then just explored. Now, my thought process on the game was you explore an area, you fight a boss, kill the boss after so many tries, and then continue on to explore a new area to find a new boss. And again, the fog walls in the game were mainly items or a boss fight. So imagine my surprise when I traverse a fog wall to see this barreling at me at high speed to land on me and one-shot me and take away all the work and all the souls and everything that I'd gained from the first boss fight to this area, only to have to do it over again. Now, I know he is an optional boss, but if you're gonna play a game and you're gonna spend $60+ on a game, I highly suggest that you finish the game completely. That's what you do. And then simply just look at his design here. Look at what this boss looks like. And then look at the fact that he has these two little pet dogs hanging out with him. And then look at the arena that you're supposed to fight this boss in. The arena is no bigger than this small area that I'm recording in. Possibly the same size as my room. And you have stairs to go up and stairs to go back down. And look at the size of this boss compared to your character, regardless of what class you chose or lack thereof. Pretty blood-curdling. And then just to add insult to injury, imagine my surprise when you get later on in the game and not only do you find miniature versions of the Taurus demon, but you also have to fight miniature versions of the Capra demon. After that boss fight and the subsequent fights after that, I did not expect to see them again. F you, From Software. I love you so much. I'm assuming that everyone watching this video is familiar with The Witcher 3. I personally never played the first two. I need to go back and do so, but The Witcher 3 got so much press upon its release, and then when it came out, so much press as it comes out, and I do believe that it won Game of the Year last year. It was a phenomenal game. I had to pick it up. The Witcher 3 is based off of Eastern European folklore, and the Witcher, by definition, is a genetically modified human being who is sent out, contracted, a bounty hunter, if you will, to fight monsters in medieval time periods. Nothing too surprising here. You fight minotaurs, griffins, witches, ghosts, werewolves, vampires, whatever you can think of, you fight them. Nothing too terribly horrifying because it's just what the game is. That's what you do, is you fight monsters. That's like saying Van Helsing is a horror film. It's not. It's Hugh Jackman fighting vampires and it's not good. But that's for another video. However, this particular questline starts when you come across the Bloody Baron of Velen. Try to say that 3 times fast. You come up to him looking for Ciri, as is the main plot of the game. You're trying to find Ciri the entire game. He speaks with you, he tells you how they met, what they did, their adventures, whatever. This quest is entirely optional. However, he does go into some background with his family history and how he beat his wife and how his wife left him with their only child, yada blah, etc, etc. Sad stuff, depressing, let's all cry about it, let's all be quiet. But the reason this particular questline is on my list is for this little guy right here. That is a botchling, and what a botchling is, again by definition, it is a creature that takes the form of a highly deformed fetus. This happens when a stillbirth child is basically tossed aside and not cared for. You miscarry a child, throw it in an unmarked grave, forget about it, you know, wash your hands, you're done. What a botchling does is it comes and it curses your family, for lack of a better term, and it preys upon pregnant women. That's cute and adorable, right? To finish this questline, you can do one of 2 things. You can kill the botchling, which I've heard was very hard, or you can explain the situation to the Bloody Baron, have him name the child, meet the child down at an unmarked spot, carry the child while it drains your life forces and summons Wraiths to come fight you to a grave that you and the Baron dug earlier at the foot of Crow's Peak, if I remember correctly. Bury the child there. The child will then turn into a lubberkin, which is, for all sakes and purposes, a repurposed botchling that goes from cursing your family to knowing the family that discarded it and becoming a guardian angel, so to speak, over the homestead, which is obviously the choice that I chose. I may be a really sick and twisted individual, but I can't just kill an innocent baby monster. The entire quest was just really disturbing because basically you're faced with a discarded stillborn that you can either kill or you can name it, show it love, and give it the family that it thought discarded it in hopes that it becomes this guardian angel over the home. The only thing I have against the quest is the fact that whenever you finish it, bury the botchling and have it come back as a lubberkin, it's just the ghost of a botchling. It doesn't turn into an infant, it doesn't turn into a beautiful child, it just is this still deformed, like, weird pig-looking figure that follows you around. Creepy dead ghost babies. What's cuter than that? I don't know. Fun for the whole family. 7. So let's take you guys all the way back to 2001. Imagine, if you will, a cute little 13-year-old Zero powering on his Xbox and throwing in some Halo for the first time and just loving this awesome new space marine adventure where you're having to kill aliens to save all of mankind from total destruction, and you're just all Billy Badass with all of your guns, killing these aliens, punching stuff to death, swords. It's just awesome. Awesome man, hairy chest, beard adventure. And then everything goes quiet. There are no Marines, there are no Covenant, it's just you in a corridor. You open a door and what's that? Oh, a dead body. That's neat. Explore the room a little bit. Oh, here's a recording of what happened. What are they fighting? What is all that noise? Oh, we have a space parasite that infects the dead bodies of fallen Marines and Covenant to make them into space zombies so they can take over all of space and turn everything into space zombies. Dead Space can suck it. That was the scariest thing I've ever seen when I was younger. That literally scared the bejesus out of me. You've got dead zombie Marines, you've got these gross little parasites that attach to things, kind of like the face suckers from Alien. If you haven't watched Alien, then please watch Alien because it's amazing, but I digress. It's just terrifying, and what's worse is they're possibly still out there. I think that's one right behind you! What could possibly be terrifying about a post-apocalyptic wasteland full of bloodthirsty raiders, feral ghouls of people whose mind and skin have rotted from all the radiation to the point that they're just zombies, super mutants, crazy animals, king scorpions that are the size of a Buick? What could be scary about all that? You've got all the guns and ammunition that you need, Wastelander. You can take it all on. You've got the perk system, you've got your Pip-Boy. You're good to go. How about a building that doubles as a Lovecraftian ride straight to hell, complete with an obelisk that is actually a porthole to hell? Okay, so it doesn't really take you to hell, but that's certainly what the Wastelanders that worshipped it believe, and that's certainly what you find out from the audio logs from that one person that just decided to wander into this building for food and shelter and happen across all of this. This building is complete with audio logs from, again, the one Wastelander that decided that it was a good idea to hide out in this building, complete with post-war flashbacks that turned into feral ghouls, just anything and everything that could be terrifying. After walking into this building, I decided I was going to take my chances with Megaton City and their still armed nuclear bomb that doubles as the town hub. Thank you very much, but no thank you. Honorable mention here would be Pikmin's Gallery in Fallout 4. It's literally no better. So upon my travels of the Commonwealth, I come across a building called Pikmin's Gallery, and if you play Fallout, you go into every building that you see. So I open the door to see raiders. Okay, no big deal there. But wait, what are all these creepy monuments all over the walls? All the creepy paintings, and oh, those are body parts. Pikmin is a bit of a connoisseur, if you will, a bit of an eccentric. He gets his jollies by just the normal, typical post-apocalyptic wasteland things of kidnapping raiders and torturing and killing them and using their body parts for art, yada blah. It's no big deal, really. So, to no surprise, the raiders are in the house looking for Pikmin. So you fight through the raiders to go down to the basement to his work area. To find him there, you kill the raiders and you have the option to help him or kill him. And me, being the good person that I am, I decided, let's help this man in this three-piece suit, who explains to me what his purposes are and all that happy stuff. And listen, raiders aren't nice people. They're just not. But really, does anybody deserve to be tortured and pulled apart for art? I don't think so. So Pikmin is of course thankful for your assistance in stopping his untimely demise and gives you a key. He tells you to take this key and stare deeply into one of his paintings. Fair enough. Take the key, go to the painting. Behind the painting is a safe. Of course, you're not going to have this hallucinogenic acid trip through this blood and spewed wasteland of horrors, which I actually kind of hoped would happen, but Bethesda is glitchy enough as it is. But behind the safe is still a little unsettling because you pull out a myriad of items. You pull out Pikmin's knife, which God knows what he used that for. And then there's a little letter that simply says, "Thanks, killer," signed with a big red bloody heart. I somehow don't feel better that I helped you. 5. Max Payne is a New York City cop. Max Payne's wife and child were brutally murdered by junkies while he was out on the job. So what does Max Payne do in this situation? What any full-blooded American man would do in that situation: goes on a revenge-fueled blood quest to avenge his wife and child. Simple. It's fine. It's a gritty noir-style cop drama full of drugs and bullet time, slow-mo bullets and awesome everything. Max Payne was a fun game. Max Payne 2 was a fun game. I've yet to play Max Payne 3, but I'm sure it's... The entire game, however, is really dark. The settings that you're put in are really dark and gritty. You're in dark, gritty New York. You're fighting these crazy junkies. I remember when you get to the end, the main person you're trying to kill is referring to himself as the Antichrist. You're in an opera house or a theater or something. The whole game is just dark and unsettling, but the worst part of it are the flashbacks. Max Payne will have these flashbacks throughout the game in which you are in a dark room and there's a trail of blood that you have to follow. And as you follow the trail of blood, you're welcomed to this. That is the sound of a baby screaming in pain or terror. Either way, I don't want to hear children screaming. I don't know if it's because I'm a father, or I've been around children my entire life, or if that's just the creepiest thing in the world, but I don't want to hear children screaming while I'm in this pitch black room and there's blood everywhere and I'm having to witness the death of my wife and child over and over and over while I'm also out committing these grisly murders to kill off all these junkies for the Antichrist, yada blah. It's just unsettling. The entire thing was unsettling the first time that I played through it. And I really think the only thing scarier than that would happen to be that Mark Wahlberg movie of the game, and more importantly, the Mark Wahlberg dinosaur roar near the end of the movie. What were you guys thinking? This is another game that is technically billed as a horror game, but I never viewed it as a horror game. It was more of a dark drama game, if anything. You're a mobster, and on your 21st birthday, you get imbued with these dark powers. It's been a family curse for generations. So you do what any mobster would do, and you use your new demonic dark powers to avenge the death of your fiance, because why else wouldn't you? I mean, technically Spawn is considered a horror comic book, but if you're that badass and you can mow through enemies like it's nothing, it's really hard for me to view that as a horror as opposed to a dark action sequence, but that's just my opinion. However, the darkness, again, I think I played it for the Xbox 360 or the PS3. I don't remember which console I had it on, and that's irrelevant, but that was and still is one of my favorite games ever. The story was really good. It was really dark. The usefulness of the powers was really good. It was kind of watered down in the darkness too. They put that cell shading on it. Everything was kind of meh, but the Darkness 1 is still a great game, and I highly recommend you play it if you haven't played it. The reason it's on this list is, of course, the hell levels. Jackie Estacado can't handle the fact that he has these demonic tentacles that are voiced by the singer from Faith No More coming out of his shoulders and helping him kill everyone in sight. He also can't handle the fact that he lost his fiance and other just run-of-the-mill things that you run into as a 21-year-old mobster. It happens, people deal with it. He just couldn't. So Jackie Estacado whacks himself, to use mob terms, fluently. So what happens when you whack yourself? Well, you go to hell. What is hell? Well, this sepia-toned, ominous, World War II era, just abysmal abyss. These places are full of stitched up soldiers, soldiers that are mutilated beyond recognition. Everything's just, like I said, abysmal and gritty and just absent, devoid of all emotion. You have to help these soldiers fight the zombie Nazis. There are inverted crucifixes everywhere, creepy, just super gothic tanks, a huge castle you have to break in near the end of it. The entire thing is it just fills me with hopelessness and despair and sadness and just emptiness, basically. Every time we would go there, you go from the lights and you're in New York and it's not that loud and that bright because it's nighttime, but still you go from that setting of like buildings and street blocks and there's, you know, people you get to mow down with your cool arms and vast array of guns and everything to just this abysmal nothing. And it was just that emotion that I got from these stages that just left something in me. Every time you get out of it, you still feel like you're still trapped there, like you're just hopeless and sad and nowhere and alone. And that's possibly why this is so high on the list. It just fills you with that emptiness, and nobody likes that. It's horrifying to think about being like that. who's cooler than Batman? And what games were more highly anticipated than the Arkham games? Arkham Asylum was the first Batman game in a long time to be worth anything, really. But yeah, I know, asylums are scary. And what's scarier than an asylum than an abandoned asylum that has been taken over by Gotham's worst of the worst, being ran by the worst of the worst of the worst, the Joker. But hey, you're Batman, you are the Knight, you're fear incarnate. You drive fear into the hearts of evildoers and stop bank robbers, and you always come out on top, and everything works for Batman because Batman is fear. That is, of course, until you run into the Scarecrow. And really, where is the best place to be in an abandoned asylum? If you said the morgue, your prize is in the mail, and also you should go see a therapist because A, why are you in an asylum? B, why are you just beelining it to the morgue? I don't know, I don't judge you people, I'm just thankful you're watching me. So you're in these spooky basement corridors in Arkham Asylum, and guess what? You've possibly been hit with fear gas because you watched Commissioner Gordon die. So upon investigating Commissioner Gordon's death, you call Barbara to tell her you're sorry. Who do you hear on the other end? Not Barbara. What is this gibberish? I don't know. Let's go through these doors to investigate. Open the door, you're in the morgue. And while you're in the morgue, all you hear is this creepy ambient music, and the doors are opening and closing, and there's just whispers screaming at you to get out, get out, get out, but you can't because the rooms loop, the rooms loop, the rooms loop, and then you go to a room, quiet. You're greeted with this crazy maniacal laughter, and then you see 3 body bags on the tables up the little stair thing. I don't work in a hospital, I don't know where these things are. But you go up to the body bag, and of course you open the body bag because these weren't here before. Let's see what's in them now. And oh, look, it's Thomas Wayne, and oh, he's belittling you for not standing up and protecting them during the infamous Crime Alley shooting. That's awesome. Suppress family trauma. What a great way to start the day. Open the next body bag, and it's Martha Wayne screaming for you to help. Open the 3rd bag. Oh, and it's our good buddy Scarecrow jumping out at you. And then chaos ensues, and you have to fight your way out, and yada blah. You're Batman. You pretty much, you go over it, you beat Scarecrow, beat the toxin, everything's okay. But just that segment where you're in the morgue, and you could just feel how cold it is, and just the way everything's set up, completely different from the rest of the game. Completely different. Everything's just ambient and dark and scary. And again, what better way to enjoy your Batman than to have a side of just good old I miss my mom and dad. Now, Majora's Mask has always been one of my hands down all-time favorite Zelda games. The Zelda series is tied, again, #1 with my Metal Gear games. I can't pick between the two, but Majora's Mask always stands out to me because it's always been the darkest of the Zelda games. There are numerous fan theories about what the game actually means, from Link's dead the entire time, to Skull Kid is a fallen prophet, to my personal favorite, Majora's Mask. It represents the stages of grief that one goes through with the loss of a friend or family member. Creepypastas that came out of it, again, my favorite being Ben Drowned, just super creepy. The game has a real dark tone to it. It's a really well told story, and like every other Zelda game, it deserves your utmost attention to every little detail in the game. You could easily dig at this game all day and find different things that the game means, and different theories and different reasons behind things, but that's not the reason for this list. The reason for this list is to pick out the scariest moment for me. And for me, that happened to be the Lunar Children whenever you go get sucked into that crazy evil moon. So yeah, aside from this handsome fella, the Lunar Children did creep me out when I first saw them, because the entire game you look up in the sky and you see this face staring down at you. And you think, what chaos is behind that moon? What chaos is going on to bring him down, on Termina? You get sucked up in it and expect to find, I don't know, just the worst of the worst bad guys, the biggest of the meanest bosses, Majora himself or whatever, but you're treated to a peaceful landscape with no music, bright blue skies, one solitary tree, grassy fields, and 4 children running around the tree. The children are all dressed the same, and they wear the masks from the first 4 bosses that you fought as representation. Each child walks up, gives you some little soliloquy or whatever about how, well, is the mask really you? Are you really yourself? Who is you? Who is Link? Whatever. That's real creepy. and they ask you to play with them, but first you have to give them the non-transforming masks that you collected throughout the game. So you give them the thing, and then you play a really long and drawn-out game of hide and seek with the children to obtain the Fierce Deity mask, to fight Majora at the end of the game, save Termina, hallelujah, the game is over. But that entire scene, the scene before you fight Majora, just seeing those children running around, the way they talk, it's so empty. And looking at that scene again and looking at how they're dressed, the whole thing just feels real culty and real empty, and just, again, just absence of emotion and absence of humanity there. That's what I've always felt about it. And then you have the 4 children playing, and then you have Majora sitting at the tree by himself who won't speak to you until the other 4 children are gone. And it just gives you this sense of just being alone, being really lonely, which I think was one of the game's general themes, was because Skull Kid was cast out, and that's why he was such a little shit and all that happy stuff. But just the lunar children in and of themselves, and again, the way they speak to you and the way they're dressed and everything was just empty and just digs at you. And for me, that's what horror really is just that digging feeling of just like, something's not right here. Something is off. And that's what always scares me. And just remember, everyone, these games are rated E for everyone. Going back to being scared of like the unsettling or it just feels not normal and all that happy stuff, that will lead me into number 1, which is... You can use a cheat device at Metal Gear Solid 2 for the PS4 at the end of Metal Gear Solid 2 to hopefully use items at the end when you're after the torture chamber and you're buck naked, Raiden's hands go down and you can see a pubic triangle. That's the scariest part. That's the scariest thing in a video game ever. Good night, America. No, but really, when you're in Arsenal gear, that entire segment is just weird. The music changes to this ambient, like almost Gregorian chant choir. The overly powerful genome guards that can sense you from like 3,000 feet away, and they all have swords that can jump just miles and everything. And you keep getting codec calls from the Colonel and Rose, which you don't have to pick them up because they're green and they call you all the time, so why would you pick up now? But if you do, and you kind of have to progress in the story, you're treated with just this nonsense, this nonsensical just gibberish, whereas Rose was all lovey-dovey and just really cared about your health and everything. She's now just being super mean. She can't see you finishing the mission. You're a failure. You're constantly getting fission mailed game over screens. Your radar will change every once in a while to a random picture. Just the nonsense that the Colonel says about just different VR missions from the first game and talking about Meryl and everything else. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is when I picked up one time and he's talking about a tuning fork worm in space and scissors and whatever the hell else he's talking about, but you're treated to this face. So on top of all the nonsense and on top of all the just different, everything's different from the main portion of the game, Roy Campbell's face just melted off and it's gone, and that's how he talks to you. And it clips to the back of his head, then clips back, then clips to the front of his head, the forward of his head, all that stuff, and he's still just like belittling you and talking nonsense to you, and Rose is still, you know, talking down to you and everything, and everything's just weird and off-putting, and that face is terrifying. It's just, and it's even terrifying in the HD remake. I don't care if you played it on PS2 and it's not, because some games don't translate that well, but that is still scary to me. I don't know, because I was so young when I played it, but it was just scary. I don't know why. So thanks a ton, Mr. Kojima, for completely ruining my childhood with your amazing game. And it turns out that it's nothing as it appears. Metal Gear Solid 2 was a training exercise put together by the Patriots, and what's going on with your codec is a virus put in by Emma Emmerich to affect GW, and it affects your nanomachines because Roy and Rose and all of them were blocked out. You find Snake in the little colon of the Jijinium. Snake gives you a sword, you can shoot him, that's funny. And if in an ammo bandana, he makes that joke, all's well and good. You fight the Metal Gears, Raiden goes off to become a robot because character arc. But yeah, the initial, when you first see that face, is pretty terrifying. So yeah, that was my list. And again, these are just my opinions, and I'm sure there's scarier moments in other games out there that are way worse than the ones that I mentioned. These are just the ones that stuck with me through time, When I think of the scariest moments in games, I think of these moments. What non-horror games scared you guys the most? Do you agree or disagree with anything on my list? Be sure to let me know down in the comments section below. If you look up from that, you'll see a code for tblocks.com. If you pop that code in, you get 15% off your first month subscription. And again, that helps me out, that helps Zero Raider Gaming out, you get cool stuff, helps T-Blocks out. Everybody's a winner there, so why haven't you tried it yet? If you like my list, give me a huge thumbs up and don't forget to share this video around. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And guys, thank you again so much for watching. And I'll see you on the other side.